Hurley was the final Season 1 main cast member to get a flashback, so we were expecting something big. And we got that, just not in a way that ends up meaning much at all. He's living with his mother and wins a huge lottery jackpot with the numbers 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42. And I may already have cursed you all just by saying them out loud, ooh. Oh, and the woman announcing the lottery is the one Sawyer was trying to con when Hibbs interrupted him. This has no purpose and is just one more thing that makes the episode seem deep. He's interviewed on the news as seen in the last episode, and his grandfather promptly dies after Hurley says he'll be getting a lot of the money. We also meet his brother Diego, who oddly enough will never be seen again. I guess there were some issues with the actor, but you'd still think we'd get some explanation about why he's not in a few certain scenes down the line. It turns out Hurley is under quite a neat idea for a curse. Good things keep happening to him, but always in a way that hurts someone else. He also turns out to own the box company Locke worked at, which will never amount to anything unless you count the Flash Sideways universe, and for now, let me just say, I don't. Eventually, he realizes that it's not the money that's cursed, but his winning numbers. It turns out they came from a mental hospital inmate named Leonard who keeps obsessively repeating them. After hearing how Hurley used them, he flips out and tells Hurley about the man he learned them from in Australia. Hurley goes to his house and finds he heard the numbers while scanning for transmissions in the Navy. He used them to win some money and got put under the curse until he killed himself. But his wife doesn't think there is any curse, just like everyone else Hurley's been talking to. Michael gets the idea to have a long-range distress signal on the raft for which they'll need to get batteries from Danielle. Why don't they check the cockpit? Well, Jack says they're not going and he's the hero, so his orders must be obeyed blindly. Saeed says he doesn't know how to get back and he doubts Danielle will help anyway. In the process, Hurley gets a look at her notes which contain the number sequence. Hurley asks Saeed what he thinks the numbers mean, not sharing anything about his experience because this is a show where no one does that, not even the supposed voice of the audience. Charlie finds him preparing to look for Danielle and invites himself along, though Hurley still won't explain why he's doing any of this. Dude, after the polar bear and the monster, I think people will be a little open-minded about this. Locke asks Claire to help with a mysterious project. She accepts, which is a pretty good call because he'd probably just whack her on the head, pregnant or not. Saeed finds that Hurley took Danielle's map and immediately accuses Jack of sending him. Normally I'd be irritated by this, like in the last episode, but I could totally see Jack doing that. Jack asks if Charlie's seen him.
A couple of hours ago, he was setting out for a walk. Acting like a loon, I might add.
For once, he's pretty spot on. There's some foreshadowing when Sawyer gets a headache while reading, and then we get some of Sun reflecting on how Jin left her. Why couldn't these two have been the whole focal point of the show? Hurley finds the cable and follows it only to step on another of Danielle's traps. Who could have seen this coming? Luckily, Saeed has followed him. Oh, and Jack and Charlie too, but let's face it, they're only useful as meat shields here.
We need to find something to replace his weight on the trigger.
His weight? How are we going to do that?
Shut up, Charlie. Hurley is able to avoid the trap and says he's getting a battery, a story so transparent that not even Jack buys it. They all keep following the cable and find a bridge. Hurley makes it across, so Charlie also starts going.
Hey, if he can do it.
Shut up, Charlie. He ends up breaking the bridge just like everything else he touches. This leaves only Hurley and Charlie able to go on. Joy. Jack and Saeed try to find a way around, and of course Jack screws things up even more when he sets off another trap and blows a bunch of crap up. It turns out Danielle's little bunker is abandoned, so Saeed figures she moved out in case of, well, this exact situation. Why couldn't she be the main character also?
The blast sounded like it came from this way. I think.
Hey, you don't know.
Shut up, Charlie. But he does get better here, demanding to know what Hurley's doing and refusing to let up until he gets some answers. If only that had happened more on this show. But being the show it is, God makes Danielle start shooting at them as soon as Hurley starts to explain. He runs into Danielle, who says she doesn't know what the numbers are, leading to probably the biggest voice of the audience moment he ever gets.
Okay. That thing in the woods? Maybe it's a monster. Maybe it's a pissed off giraffe. I don't know. The fact that no one is even looking for us. Yeah, that's weird. But I just go along with it. Because I'm along for the ride. Good old fun time Hurley. Well, guess what? Now, I want some friggin' answers.
Bravi, bravi, bravissimi. Danielle explains that her team crashed onto the island by following the same voice repeating the numbers that Leonard's friend heard. They found that it was coming from a radio tower, and after killing the rest of her team, Danielle replaced it with her distress call. Considering all that's happened to her, she agrees with Hurley that the numbers are cursed, so that's nice. Except it does nothing to answer what the numbers are, or why they were being broadcast from the island, and that will never be answered either. Of all the show's plot holes, this may just be the biggest, and I'm going to do the writers the tremendous favor of giving one blanket unanswered question ranking to everything involving the numbers. Because after all, there's plenty more to choose from. Saeed finds the remains of his picture of Nadia, her face conveniently left intact, and then everyone meets up again. Danielle even gave Hurley a battery, so full points all around. Claire reveals to Locke that it's her birthday, which is convenient since the project they've been working on is a cradle for her baby. It's almost enough to make you forget how completely out of his gourd the man is. Charlie tells Hurley about his drug problem, so Hurley responds with how much money he has.
Fine, don't tell me.
Dude, I bare my soul, and all I get is bloody jokes.
Shut up, Charlie. This doesn't even make any sense. Why does he find this so hard to believe? And worst of all, we never get the payoff this should logically lead to where Charlie finds out he was telling the truth. Instead, he'll eventually go to his grave still believing Hurley was lying. How uplifting. And on that note, the numbers are revealed to be printed on the hatch. See the unanswered questions note before on how little sense this makes. My score for numbers is 9 out of 10. Despite how little sense the numbers end up making, at their introduction they're quite a scary concept, and both the flashback and island storylines work in perfect sync to let us get to know this new part of the mythology. If it wasn't for Charlie being even more annoying than usual, this would probably be another 10. And for the record, the producers themselves have admitted that the numbers were a late addition to the story and initially didn't mean anything. They just picked out 5 numbers that had appeared in various earlier episodes, then added 42 as a shout out to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And unfortunately, that's just how they'll continue to be used, just popping up occasionally, looking like they're significant, often in completely nonsensical ways, like we already saw with the retcon and how many times Charlie shot Ethan. Get used to it because that's Lost in a nutshell.